Hey guys, welcome back. So in the last video we studied about default methods and interfaces which were introduced in Java 8, and I know it was quite a long video, but I hope you understood the concept, and if there are any questions you can comment down in the video and I'll definitely try to answer them. In this video, we are going to discuss two other types of methods that were introduced in Java 8 and after in interfaces. So the two methods are static methods and private methods. Static methods and interfaces were introduced in Java 8 and private methods and interfaces were introduced in Java 9. So let's start with static methods. As we've already discussed, static methods were introduced in Java 8. So first, let's answer the why part. Why were static methods introduced altogether? So in the pre-Java 8 world, whenever an interface required a static utility method, it was defined in some companion class because it was not allowed to define the static method in an interface. But after introducing static methods in Java 8, utility methods could be defined in the interface itself. So it increased the degree of cohesion. So that was the primary reason why static methods were introduced. There are various other reasons as well, but this is the main reason. Okay, let's move on. So like default methods, interface evolution holds for static methods too. So what does it mean? As we've already studied, that suppose there is an interface and multiple classes are implementing that interface. If we define a default method in that interface, we need not change the implementing classes. So that means interface evolution with binary compatibility. Same holds for static methods as well. We can define a static method in an interface and we need not change the code of the implementing classes. So just evolving the interface would work. We need not recompile the implementing classes. Now let's study about the properties of static methods. The first and foremost and the most basic property would be that a static keyword should be prefixed to the method. That would make the method static. Next two properties are very important because most of the programmers usually miss on these properties and they get confused in the interviews on these properties. So let's see. Firstly, the static methods in an interface are not inherited. Why did I focus on interface explicitly? Are static methods defined in classes inherited to their subclasses? Is that the case? So we'll quickly see that for us to understand better. Here I have class C1 and I'm declaring a static method inside class C1. The static method's name is hello and it just prints the hello string onto the console. Next, I have a class C2 that extends C1. So if the static method hello has been overridden in the class C2, then I would be able to call the hello method from the C2 class directly. So let's quickly see that. I'll just uncomment line number 39. And here, as we see, the compiler is happy. It does not throw us any error. The code compiles fine. And hello method has been inherited in class C2. But what about interfaces? We'll do the same thing in interfaces and let's see what happens. So here I've declared an interface I1. Now I'm defining a public static method named as by. I'll just change the access modifier to public. Okay, as we see down here on line number 78, interface I2 extends the interface I1. Now my expectation is that if the static method by has been overridden in interface I2, then I would be able to call method by from interface I2 directly. So let's see what happens. If I just uncomment line number 40, here I am invoking the by method from interface I1 and it works fine because the static method by has been defined in the interface I1. If I just change this to I2, let's see what happens. Now I'm invoking the method by from interface I2 and the compiler throws us an error. Let's quickly see what it is. The method by is undefined for the type I2. What does that mean? That means the static method by has not been inherited by interface I2. So the compiler says that by method is undefined for it. From this, we can infer that the static methods are not inherited to the sub interfaces. So this answers a very important question that might be asked in interviews. Can static methods in an interface be invoked from its sub interfaces? So the clear answer is no. Why? Because static methods are not inherited to the sub interfaces. Okay, let's move on to the next property. This is also very important. Static methods can only be invoked via interface name. So as we've already studied, we cannot invoke the static methods from sub interfaces. Additionally, we cannot invoke the static methods from object references as well. Let's quickly see. First, let's see about classes. Can we invoke static methods in a class from object reference? Here I have a class C1 and a class C2 that extends C1. In C1 we have already defined a static method hello. So let me just create an object of class C2 and I'll invoke the hello method from the object reference of C2 that we've just created. Let's see if the code would compile fine. Yes, as we see, the code compiles fine. It just throws us a warning that the static method hello from the type C1 should be assessed in a static way. That's obviously recommended that a static method should be assessed in a static way. But even if we invoke the static method from the object reference in a class, that works fine. Now what I'll do is, as we already have a static method by in interface I1, I'll implement this interface in class C2. Let me just quickly do this. Okay, I have implemented the interface I1 in class C2, and now I'll try to invoke the static method by from the object reference of C2 that we have just created. Okay, let's quickly see. When I invoke the by method from the object reference of C2, it gives us an error. What does it say? The method by is undefined for the type C2. So we can infer that we cannot invoke the static method of an interface from an object reference as well. This gives us a very important conclusion, that is, static method can be invoked only via its interface name. It also answers a question that might be asked in interviews, that is, can static methods in an interface be invoked from an object reference? The clear answer is no. So that was pretty much it about static methods. I tried to keep it short and crisp. Let me just quickly comment out the code. Okay, so now let's come on to private methods and interfaces. This is also a very simple concept. These are very similar to private methods that we define in regular classes, but let's quickly go through the points so that we have a better understanding of private methods and interfaces. Firstly, private methods were introduced in Java 9, not Java 8. Okay, a private method can be a static method or a non-default instance method. So this statement says that we can make a static method private, very well possible. We can make an instance method private, very well possible, but we cannot make a default method private, because as we have already studied in the default method video, if you have not watched it, I would recommend you to watch it because it's very, very important, especially for the sake of interviews as well as during your development. Default methods, as we have studied, are implicitly public, and the access level of default methods cannot be changed because their main aim is to provide a default implementation of the method, and subclasses can override it. If we make it private, definitely subclasses would not be able to override it. That's why the Java designers haven't allowed default methods to be private. Let's quickly demonstrate this. The code is already written. I'll just uncomment it. Here I have three methods, method 1, method 2, and method 3. Method 1 is a static method that I've made as private. So this is very well allowed. The compiler doesn't throw us any error. Next, we have method 2 as an instance method. This is also private, and this is also very well allowed. The compiler is happy with this as well. But on line number 73, I have defined a default method and I've made it private. So this is not allowed and the compiler is giving us an error. So let's jump on to the next point. So the private methods in an interface are similar to that of private methods in a regular class. I've already told you this. It has some implementation and is visible only within the interface. As we all know, whenever we make the access level as private, it is accessible only within that particular class or an interface. Okay, next, private methods are primarily used to define some common functionality that will be used across multiple static or default methods. So this is a very common use case of private methods, not limited to interfaces, but to classes as well. We define some common functionality inside it that can be used across multiple static or default methods within that particular class or interface. Okay, next point is not related to private methods, but is related to instance and static methods. I thought it would be useful if I just point that out. If a private method has to be assessed from a static method, then it needs to be a private static method, because an instance method cannot be assessed from a static method. So this is related to the property of Java of instance and static methods. Inside a static method, we can invoke a static method only and not instance methods. However, inside an instance method, we can invoke both static and instance methods. If you are unclear on any of the basic Java concept, do let me know in the comment section below and I'll try to make a video on it for your better understanding. So that was pretty much it about this video. I hope the concept of static methods and instance methods and interfaces is crystal clear to you now. And if you have any questions, do let me know in the comment section below and I'll try to answer it as soon as possible. Okay, so I'll meet you in the next one. Till then, goodbye, have a nice day.